Well, I know one of the things that I personally did after we started talking was called my trainer. And like great guy, we just hadn't like I'd been too busy and was like, nah, let's just call it off for a little minute. Woo. And was like, I need twice a week because I might not do the like, when I was training and when I was into the nice rhythm of it and everything was kicking and screaming, 3 a week, I'd meet him once a week and fantastic, easy peasy. I'd be doing 4 a week and I was just so into the swing of it and feeling fantastic and loving it. But when I called him, I was like, twice a week. I need you to be there twice a week. So I'm there twice a week. And then maybe I'll get another one in, but we'll see. But at least if that happens 8 times a month, I have got a little serotonin kicked off. I can feel a little bit better about myself. I can have those little moments. And then maybe I can just push this great big boulder a little bit, start to get just the tiniest little bit of emotion. And then maybe there'll be its own momentum, which will start to carry on, which is the thing I detest most about all this is that I know what I should be doing, and I will sit there stressed out thinking about how I'm going to do it tomorrow, and then that just is tomorrow, tomorrow, mañana, 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 and I'm months down the line sitting there being like, "Look at me now, look at me now." I still haven't done any exercise when I know all I need to do is just walk downstairs, grab something heavy, pick it up, and put it down a few times, and I'll feel really well. Um, and it's that though. It's even knowing doesn't necessarily help though, right? It's you
No,
still have to do.
no. It's one of those things where we all know what we should be doing, right? So, like, way back when my first business was I set up a nutrition business when I was still at university at a gym. Because hey, doing a double degree wasn't enough. I needed to get a full-time business. Why not? Because I've always liked to overwork. Um, but I think one of it's with the diet side, people know what they have to eat. People know how to eat healthy, right? Like I will put this down. There's only some people might not know everything, but people genuinely know eating fruits and vegetables is good. Eating takeaway probably not the greatest thing to do all the time, right? Like we all probably could, understand that, subscribe to that. But it's understanding what's getting in the way of you actually being able to do that. It's like, I know I should be exercising. I know I should be dieting. I know I should be sleeping, but I'm not. And so it's actually taking a step back going, well, why aren't I doing that? It's like, well, are you fatigued? Are you actually stressing about, well, when I wake up the first thing in the morning, I'm worried about having to do the work that I'm doing. And I'm worried that if I go, like you will sacrifice, right? Like when you're a business owner, it's easy to sacrifice yourself for the business, right? Because, you've
Part
got
of the
to get
job.
profits. You've got to make sure that you're paying your people, all that kind of
But
stuff.
sacrifice is part of the job.
Yeah.
Like when you start as a business, like you know that you're going to have to sacrifice some personal
Yeah.
or something for you, because you're now like responsible for others.
Yeah.
And even if others is the business, not necessarily employees, but employees then for me, like just giles that stress
Mm.
up because whenever anything's bad, I'm like, well, there's my mortgage, and his and hers and his and hers. That's a lot of mortgages, man. Like I only signed one. Oof.
Easy. And I think the thing is when we're looking at the sacrifices with business, I think that some people can fall into the all or nothing mentality, which I would say a lot of people do. So it's being able to understand where it's like, going back to the Gary V's of the world and going back to the 2000s sort of mentality where it's like you've got to sacrifice everything. Like I remember reading a story, I see it into my memory where someone was like, I sold my bed and slept on concrete until I earned my bed from my first income. I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, why would you do that? But there's sacrifice and then there's sacrifice, right? So it's understanding that you are going to sacrifice small parts, but you can't sacrifice your whole self consistently over and over again and think that you are going to be successful within your business as well as at things that are happening at home as well. So it's understanding, yeah, there's going to be sacrifices. Maybe you have to sacrifice a little bit of personal time and things like that. Maybe you're sacrificing, I remember going from being fully employed, being on six figures, to then going to setting up a business going, well, no, I have no money. Let's go figure that out, right? Like, I can't live the lifestyle that I was having before. But it's that kind of sacrifice, right? Because you're doing something a little bit more meaningful. But, there's certain things that you can't sacrifice. You can't sacrifice your health for business. You just can't. It's not productive. It's not sustainable, and it's going to end in tears at the end of the day because you're not going to be able to bring your whole self, your full self, the person that you need to be to run your business. And over a prolonged period of time, it's going to impact how your business turns out. It's going to impact the profitability. It's going to impact the performance of you and the people around you as well. So You've got to understand what you're sacrificing, and is it actually worthwhile in the long run?
And also, if you have sacrificed for some time now, you said you've been running a business for 3 years. I've been doing mine for 7 now. Like that's a lot of sacrifice for both of us. What was the point if you're going to get to a point where you can't do it anymore? Like, what was the point? Why don't you just work like at
Mhm.
60% for those 3 years and have like half the business you got now, but it'd be easier and you'd be able to do it for another 3 years? Because
Yeah.
100% of nothing's definitely nothing, And I think I've seen so many people, especially like coming out of lockdown, right? So
Mhm.
lockdown seemed to be lots of people were like, no problem, I got this, right? And then as we came out of it, more and more, like lots of people went on holiday. And
Yeah.
those holidays then were, well, it's more than a month now. Where are they? I've messaged them. I've had no reply. Oh, they've been off for 6 weeks now, and I saw it across every.
Yep.
We're very lucky to work with every industry. Not every industry. Work across. We're industry agnostic. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. Learned that earlier on in the week. So, word of the day: toilet papers, Katie. It's a marvel. But I've worked. It's not just like we're just working with sales type industries, so like recruitment and IT. We're also working with engineers. We're also working with climate. We're working with different places, and just seeing
Mhm.
people like, oh, they've had to go for a long period of time because it felt like people didn't press pause. They just had
Yeah.
their head down for 8 to 12 months, 18 months during the lockdown, during the pandemic, and then we came out of it and people were like, good news, work's back on, the world's opened, it's going to get really busy. And people had to dial it up to this next
Yeah.
step after being completely exhausted. And I've just
Mhm.
seen, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen my LinkedIn feed is just full of people starting new jobs, just full. And people
Well,
saying,
there's obviously the Great Resignation that came about as well, and it wasn't necessarily because I think the dilemma is that we've always got, and I have to play devil's advocate a lot, which is, everyone's just like, my job and my work was so horrible, it was really toxic, it was this, it was that. Um, but is it always that? It's also can be just, sometimes people are just so exhausted. Like we were all so exhausted coming out of the pandemic that when it gets to the apathy phase of burnout, right, you feel like you just don't care, but you kind of then actually have to channel that negative thought somewhere. It could have been the job, it could have been something else, but
mm,
a lot of people, to hear the other thing as well, I work with a lot of recruitment companies myself. A lot of people left their jobs and then regretted it and wanted to go back to where they were, right? Because they're like, oh, hang on a second, it wasn't actually the job. I was
I
just
was
really
just
burnt
tired. I was just
out. I was
exhausted.
just
Right.
doing the same thing over and over again, and it was just really not okay, and I just thought it was work. But I think at the end of the day, like, you gotta be careful. Not saying that there's no toxic workplaces, that would be unrealistic for me to say, but I also
I've
think
worked in
that
them.
it's just, yeah, I think we've all had an experience of it in a, once or twice. But I think it's being able to understand that burnout, I always say burnout isn't always from a toxic workplace. It's not
Mm,
always from that. It can be from
mm,
too much pressure that you've put on yourselves. The pandemic is a really good example of people having a lot of pressure on themselves. If you think about the employee side, if you've half your team's been furloughed, you're taking on more work than before. Or then
ugh,
there's that
wow.
fear of like, I really don't want to get made redundant, so let me work really hard and make myself indisposable, even though that might not have been like on the cards or anything like that. So there's just so many moving things that occurred during that time. And we did
Mm,
see, hair's being weird. We did see a lot of people having we did see a lot of people having um, you know, extended holidays. I think
yeah,
this year we're still seeing it.
yeah.
Like I've never seen, it's never been, this was the quietest Easter I have ever experienced in my career. Like I was just like, what did everyone do? Like everyone just jumped off the
Oh.
face of the planet. So yeah, I think we're still seeing it because,
Mm.
at the beginning of this year, there was a 92% increase of people going to the GP saying that they felt burnt out. And we've been open for what, a year?
Wow. How much of an increase?
92%.
92% increase.
Yeah.
That's everybody. Oh,
Yeah. So GPs have come out saying they're seeing so many more people feeling burnt out than ever before. And I think, we've got to take this seriously. We've
mm.
got to take this seriously. And I think that individuals have to take it seriously and companies have to start understanding what they could be doing to support. They might not be the root cause of it, but understanding how they can support.
Well, that's it. And you were mentioning earlier, it's not only toxic work environments. Like we really strive here to like not have a toxic work environment, and I think that ended up, or potentially added to people working themselves into a hole because it's a nice
Yeah.
place to work. They want it to be cool. Like they want to help us out with what we're doing. We're all working for this goal. So people were struggling, but they didn't want to, they knew we were struggling with all the workload. And we were very lucky we didn't have to furlough anyone, but the workload suddenly went up and everyone was at
Mm.
home and we didn't have this like collaborative thing anymore. So I totally agree with that because I've worked in, and actually for me personally, when I've worked in really toxic environments, I'm really hyper aware. I'm hyper
Yep.
aware. They're making me work extra. I'm clocking out on the button. I'm like,
Mhm.
peace, right? Not peace.
Mhm.
But I'm done. I'm like, that's enough. That is 8 hours. Kadoosh. I'm out and I'm doing it
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I knew it's toxic and like, my kind of radar was up. But when you're working for somewhere you like and same, and I think that's why it's attacked so many business owners because they're like, I like
Mhm.
this. This is cool. I want to do this. Like I can see myself doing this for many years. I'm not
Mhm.
trapped in it. Like I built this myself. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I can't do anything else. I'm trapped
Mhm.
in it and I've pushed it too far. Um,
Yeah, it's so dangerous to fall into that mentality, and I think that, you know, I think the other dangerous thing when we're talking about burnout, and this is just something that riles me up a little bit, there's definitely
that's
somebody
what this
out that
show's for, Katie. Let it
will
all out.
rile me up. I think is it Grant Cardone who came out and said burnout wasn't a real thing? I'm like, what? He's like, I think it's just people are they're just not, they don't love what they do or something where it's
Right.
like they don't know how to work hard. I'm like, oh my god, no, that's not burnout at all. Most of the people that I know that have burnt out throw their whole selves
Adore
into
it.
their job or to their
Adore
career
it.
or what their business. And it's, you know, you burn out. And I think, you know, it's not that you're not motivated, it's not that you're not driven, it's not an excuse. It's just
It's actually the other
it's a
way.
real thing.
You were overly motivated and overly driven, and now you are not those things because you've hit apathy stage, as you said, and you can't get there.